Is this guy criticizing people for wearing an article of clothing? What purpose is that beanie serving you? You know, heat leaves your body from the top of your head. So by keeping that beanie on your head when it is 70, 80 degrees, you're going to overheat. You're going to pass out. Tim, you got to take that beanie off, buddy. I'm online the other day, and all of a sudden I see screenshots being posted of Tim Pool on Fox News. And I'm thinking to myself, what is Tim Pool on Fox News for? Like, I know he goes around and usually talks about big tech and how conservative voices are being censored online, which they're not. But I'm like, what do they have him on for now? Is this another big tech thing? Or, that's the thing that's his thing on the right, right? But no. They have Tim Pool on to talk about COVID and mask wearing. Who is Tim Pool to talk about this stuff? I mean, listen, he can certainly talk about it on his show. And, if you want to, invite Tim Pool on your show to talk about this stuff, fine. He's welcome to talk about it, obviously. But Fox News has a wide array of guests they could choose from. Maybe a specialist, an epidemiologist. I don't know. Someone with a medical background. I don't know who you'd want to talk about all this medical health stuff with. Why not call up the fucking guy who's got a YouTube channel, right? Let's watch this clip. Let me just pull it up here. Give me 1 second. Here's Tim Pool on Fox News.
The CDC says it's time for you to take your mask off, but as we told you about last night, that fight, it's far from over. The media will take up the challenge of keeping you masked. Here's the New York Daily News today in an editorial. Masks should remain with us, becoming part of our everyday lives, even as the COVID-19 pandemic, science willing, of course, subsides. We should never fully return to our maskless society where only healthcare providers donned a mask, because judicious use of masks will continue to save lives. Masks now, masks forever. Joining me now with his take is Tim Pool, the host of the Timcast. Tim,
where is this going to go? Let's see.
Enjoy your work. You're unpredictable. You're an independent thinker. It's one of my favorite things.
He's unpredictable. I mean, he's pretty predictable. If you watch just a little bit of Tim Pool, he's pretty predictable.
See in people. What do you make of this? What's this about? Is this about? Is this truly, by the way, neuroses that's about keeping people from getting sick?
I don't think it's about keeping people from getting sick. I think stories like this in the Daily News are just an excuse people need because they don't want to take their masks off. We've seen certain individuals like David Hogg say that they're scared people.
Whoa, hold on. Is this guy criticizing? Let me rewind a little bit. This guy criticizing people for wearing an article of clothing? An unnecessary, according to him, article of clothing? One that serves no purpose? This guy?
Take is Tim Pool, the host. I always enjoy your work. You're unpredictable. You're an independent thinker. It's one of my favorite things to see in people. What do you make of this? What's this about? Is this about? Is this truly, by the way, neuroses that's about keeping people from getting sick?
I don't think it's about keeping people from getting sick. I think stories like this in the Daily News are just an excuse people need because they don't want to take their masks off.
Tim, what is that on your head? What are you wearing on your head right now? Are you outside? Is it December, January, February in New York? Are you broadcasting the show from Alaska right now, Tim? You're indoors too, right? You're going to go on live TV, national television, cable news, and complain that people are still wearing their masks, an unnecessary article of clothing, when you are wearing a beanie indoors. in Washington, D.C., where I know that's where your compound is, right? You say it yourself. You broadcast from D.C. or the general area, right? Virginia, Maryland, that area. In the middle of May. What purpose is that beanie serving you? And you want to talk about and people who hate masks, talk about the health risks. Heat leaves your body from the top of your head. So by keeping that beanie on your head when it is 70, 80 degrees, while indoors means probably even hotter if you don't got the ACs blasting. And if you're outdoors, oh man, the sun radiating on you and your body looking to get rid of that heat and it's all being trapped inside, you're going to overheat. You're going to pass out. Tim, you got to take that beanie off, buddy.
We've seen certain individuals like David Hogg say that they're scared people will think they're conservatives if they're not wearing a mask. So it's kind of creepy, and it makes me a little bit pessimistic that there are people who are now openly admitting they're ignoring the science.
Right.
Because
no one is ignoring the science. First of all, people still need to wear masks if they're not vaccinated. And there are more than half of the country is not vaccinated. So I truly don't know what this urge for people to unmask them. If you're vaccinated and you feel comfortable taking your mask off, the CDC has said, sure, go ahead. Go ahead. But this is all based on science. And also, people have decided to continue wearing masks because they've seen, hey, this past year, not only did I not get COVID, I didn't get the flu. I didn't get the common cold. I didn't get sick at all. Hell, until just this past week, I haven't been sick in like a year and a half. Usually I don't get sick that often, but usually definitely like once a year. I would say this past year and a half stretch is the longest I've not gotten sick. It's because the mask works. Not just for COVID, but for other things too.
tribal partisanship or just trying to look like they fit in. It's just quite weird.
We talked about this again last night, Tim. It is being used as something other than a protective mechanism. It's being used for something other than science. And it seems to be something that even Dr. Anthony Fauci is admitting. I want you to listen to this.
Like, who cares, though, even if that was the case? Who cares? Are you going to start policing everyone who you deem to be wearing an unnecessary article of clothing? Are you going to go after hipsters who wear scarves during the summer just to look cool? Are you going to go after year-round beanie wearers? I mean, that tie, what's that tie doing for you, Fox News host, buddy? What is the purpose of that tie? Your shirt doesn't fall off without it.
Now, and I'll get your reaction.
How does it change your mask wearing practices?
I am now much more comfortable in people seeing me indoors without a mask. I didn't want to look like I was giving mixed signals. But being a fully vaccinated person, the chances of my getting infected in an indoor setting is extremely low.
So he's wearing the mask while vaccinated as a signal, Tim. It wasn't because science dictated it.
Yeah, and since the beginning, Fauci has basically been on every side of the argument.
First of all, the reason he has to do that is because of the people who aren't vaccinated. What don't you, I mean, I know it's purposeful at this point, but what don't you get? Yeah, Fauci, as the face of this, has to portray a image that speaks to the majority or all Americans. And the fact of the matter is he's basically saying he wore his mask to not give people the wrong idea. Yeah. He wore his mask to make sure that people who aren't vaccinated know they still need to wear masks because they see the fucking doctor who's been giving all the advice for the past year and a half still wearing his mask. It's not that difficult.
And moving, throughout the past year, I came to a point where I realized he just kind of repeats what he hears on TV, and then people believe him. I think if you're somebody who's actually reading the data, you're following the CDC, and you're looking at these guidelines, you start to realize that he's a bit behind the curve. He once said, don't wear masks. Then he said, wear masks. Then he said, if you're vaccinated, you need them. Now we're hearing you don't. So
Well, it is true that first half, they fucked up the messaging in the beginning of all this. They said that the CDC, and I think Fauci as well, said early on that you didn't need masks. But they were talking about the N95 masks. And the reason they were talking about the N95 masks is they needed those masks for the medical personnel when these masks were hard to come by. And people were all buying them up. So that part is true. Okay. But the part about wearing your mask when you're vaccinated that came just a few weeks ago for a short time, that's because they were still doing the work on it. They were still testing it. They were still checking things out, how it would go. Like, that was a really short amount of time they said you still needed your mask. And as a few weeks went by and they realized, hey, all good, there's no spike. Like, isn't this the very definition of being careful and looking at the data and following the data? So they had this huge pool of people for the first time take these vaccines. They had told them, wear your mask indoors. People did that. They don't see the cases spiking. So they say, hey, this seems to be working. Let's test out the next thing. They test it out. They decide, hey, you don't got to wear masks anymore indoors if you're vaccinated. I mean, that's literally the definition of following the data. They changed the rules based on the data they saw.
Where did the data come from that all of a sudden the rules have changed just in the blink of an eye?
From all the people who are getting vaccinated! You really, where have you been? These past few months have been the biggest change in this whole pandemic. Millions and millions of people in this country have gotten vaccinated. The vast majority of those people in the very groups most susceptible to succumbing to the worst of the coronavirus. Massive change in the past few months, buddy. Where have you been? Where have you been?
Following the CDC, and you're looking at these guidelines, you start to realize that he's a bit behind the curve. He once said, don't wear masks. Then he said,
I had to
wear masks.
rewind
Then
it a
he
little
said,
bit
if you're
because I just had to hear
vaccinated,
that
you need them.
again.
Now we're hearing you don't. So where did the data come from that all of a sudden the rules have changed just in the blink of an eye?
Hey,
and I'll
Tim,
tell you what really freaks me out is that there.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What freaks you out?
What
Tim?
freaks you out?
It's just freaky that there are people whose opinions are based on the TV doctor instead of just looking at the research.
It's really scary that people are just basing their opinions on the actual legitimate doctor who goes on television and not the fucking YouTuber who wears his beanie year round, who gets his data and his info from, and he said this, and I'm going to show you in a minute, a video. He said the Daily Mail is where he reads for his information. The fucking UK right-wing gossip rag.
Following the guidelines.
Just unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's like, where is this? Where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? And how he tries to bring in David Hogg, just name drop someone who he knows the conservative base is gonna hate. I mean, who cares what David Hogg thinks? You guys are the only ones obsessed with David Hogg. Conservatives are so obsessed with a kid who tried to use his experience from a school shooting to advocate for gun control. So obsessed with this kid. Children, you guys are. David Hogg's not the kid. You guys are. He's just a young man with an opinion. You guys are treating him like he's some sort of powerful figure. Who cares what David Hogg says? And, you know, Tim Pool has a lot to say about mask wearing. He's also very anti-lockdown. You know, he obviously follows the science. Obviously. Very serious thinker. Well, here's what Tim Pool... I decided then, so I decided to look back at what Tim Pool had said about COVID over the past, year and a half. And, he does a daily show. I didn't have time to look through it all. I just had a few hours to after I saw this video to prep for it. So I'm quickly looking through some of his stuff, and I come across a show from right before the COVID hits the U.S. And here's Tim Pool's take on COVID then.
Yeah.
Let's read this story. This is one of the latest stories we have.
Ah, there it is, the Daily Mail, where Tim Pool's getting all of his COVID and coronavirus information. The stuff that's feeding him all the information that makes him qualified to talk about coronaviruses on national television.
My family is in lockdown in Wuhan. Wisconsin father begged U.S. State Department to let his wife, his 5-year-old daughter, and his 10-month-old baby leave on the only evacuation flight out of the coronavirus-stricken city. I just want to say right now, kind of sounds like a bad idea.
Oh.
Like there's a quarantine for a reason. Should we probably... Do we tell American... Sorry.
It sounds really bad for those 2 kids. It's terrible.
Hey, man. You're quarantined, dude.
It's true. It's like you're in ground zero.
Well, this is him with his co-host.
Like the most, susceptible
people,
which are babies,
Yeah.
No, I feel bad for them, but they could probably at least be checked, can't they?
No, it's a 2-week incubation period.
No, you gotta stay locked
down.
down.
It seems crazy to me that we're talking about bringing people. There was a one story I saw of someone from New Zealand.
Yeah,
it's trying to hop, begging the U.S. and other countries to get me out of here.
Yeah,
streets are all deserted and everything. I don't know, man. I kind of feel like you should probably stay. Is that?
Oh, really? Really?
I kind of feel like you should probably stay. Is that callous? Does that mean?
No,
it's quarantine, bro.
That is the definition of having to change your lifestyle because of an infectious disease that's pandemic. Right. Sorry, guy, that this is happening to. I believe in all this stuff when I'm not affected by it, right? That's following the science, right? When the lockdowns hit here, I changed my tune because I'm following the science, and the science is now affecting me, right? But listen to how he's talking about this before it comes here.
Not to be something that's, fatal, then they should stay.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? You ever see those movies where they always break quarantine?
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
I can't.
What was that movie with
it.
I think Ryan Reynolds was in it or something, and
so
it's called, I think it's called Life.
I haven't seen that.
And it's I can't remember, but I think it's Idris Elba.
How's it about?
He puts his hand in that glove, and there's a life form, and then it breaks his hand or something. Maybe that was a different character. And they're like, we got to get him out, and they're like, no, he's quarantined. I don't care. And then they open the door anyway, and it's the whole movie is based on you violating the protocol.
Yeah, exactly.
That you're not supposed to violate.
That's premise hole or a plot hole in so many movies like that.
Oh,
too.
it's
So why do they do this?
There's always that one person.
You
that's
know,
like,
man.
I don't care about this quarantine. Open.
More than one person, I can let you know it's not a plot hole. Let's keep going. I wonder where these people, where these screenwriters, where these directors and these producers, where they come up with these cockamamie lame brain ideas. I wonder where they have this idea that people wouldn't listen to fucking quarantines.
Hole or a plot hole in so many movies like that too.
Why do they do this?
There's always that one person.
You
that's
know,
like,
man.
I don't care about this quarantine. Open the door.
I can't stand movies. You know, I can't stand movies where the plot is based on character stupidity.
Yeah.
I can't stand real life either. That's usually inspired by.
Like, great.
I can't stand it.
Why couldn't they make it like the alien broke the quarantine?
Yeah.
And they were like, we did the right thing.
We had no choice in this matter.
Instead, it's always like, you know, but I got to be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe it is realistic.
Oh, it is.
Like, you have this story where people are,
Fast forward just a couple of months and you'll see how realistic it is and where you lie on this issue, my friend.
Believe they have it. They're like, I'm clear. I'm
no,
good.
they don't care. I don't think.
Okay, fast forward.
I got to be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe it is realistic. Like, you have this story where people are trying to get out of the quarantine and the U.S. is actually evacuating people.
Because they don't believe they have it. They're like, I'm clear. I'm
No,
good.
they don't care.
Right.
I don't think.
Doesn't that sound like other people who walk around who don't think they have to wear masks anymore and aren't getting vaccinated? Right. That does sound like them a little bit, right? Doesn't it, Tim? Right.
Story where people are trying to get out of the quarantine and the U.S. is actually evacuating people.
Because they don't believe they have it. They're like, I'm clear. I'm
No,
good.
they don't care.
Right.
I don't think they care. I think, you know, the concern of people is me.
That's true.
It's like, I got to get out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's read a little bit more of this story.
Right. Yeah. Let's read a little bit more of this story from the Daily Mail, though. I cut out a large chunk of him just reading this story. It's basically just a personal story of this family from Wisconsin that were stuck in China early on in the pandemic. I believe this is from like February or maybe even like late January. But let's get back to this. This is of last year. This is before COVID hit the U.S. You know, when the science, the data and all the science that Tim consumes told him that those people had to stay in China, locked down and quarantined because it's the right thing to do. Otherwise, you're one of those fucking idiots in the movies that commit the selfish act that then spreads the pandemic and gets people killed. You know, you don't want to do that. So you got to pay attention to the science when they're over there. You know, when it affects me and I'm the selfish a-hole, the science, all of a sudden I interpret it a little bit differently.
Because, you know, I wanted to read this one because it feels a bit, it's a good story to focus on this individual, right? He's a human being. He's got a family, man.
Right.
He's got kids.
Yeah.
We want to save this family. They're Americans.
Yeah, definitely.
But man, it's a tough call, right?
It definitely is.
If coronavirus kills one person in America and it comes from him, then was it worth, you know, saving the guy? Oh, Facebook.
What if Tim, how would you feel? Let's do a little thought experiment here, my friend. How would you feel if one person, one beanie hat wearing individual, I'm just using a fantastical made up person. Let's just say there's this guy out there who has huge YouTube following, big guy on YouTube who really thought Donald Trump was going to win and predicted he was going to win by a landslide over many months. And was completely wrong on that by a lot. And also believes that whatever the NYPD press team puts out there, even when it comes out later that they were fucking lying about, shit being put in their milkshakes. But, all that, these just making someone up here on the fly, right? They wear beanie all the time and they go on cable news and they espouse all sorts of things about health precautions that are not necessarily looking out for people's best health, and they're just saying all this shit, and they have this huge audience, and they're like, anti-lockdowns, and they think this is all bullshit, and this has gone on for too long. Enough is enough. It's all don't wear your fucking mask. Now if one person, or let's say a couple thousand, But if even one person dies because of this one individual who went out here and espoused all this stuff to their huge, gigantic following, was it worth it for that person? Do you think they hold some responsibility, some accountability? I don't know. It's just I'm just shooting the shit. Just making up some hypothetical scenario.
I'll tell you what, man. I feel for you, Sam. I really do. You know, I don't want anybody to be hurt and be put in danger. But bro, you're in a quarantined city, man.
Yeah.
There is a disease. I know the mortality rate is projected to be relatively low right now, but if we pull people out of this and then it spreads and hits thousands of people in the U.S. and there are deaths, it's like that could have been averted, you know?
Oh, it could have been averted. It could have been averted. 500,000+ deaths in the U.S. It could have been averted. It definitely could have been averted. But it wasn't. And, you know, Tim Pool, in another video I saw, defended the Trump administration's response to this. They have a huge role to play in the 500,000+ deaths that could have been averted. I would also argue that the talking heads, the beanie wearing and non-beanie wearing talking heads who espoused all sorts of right-wing talking points, anti-lockdown messaging, COVID conspiracy theories, all of them have blood on their hands as well about those 500,000+ averted deaths, deaths that could have been averted, excuse me. But remember, we listen to the science here, and the science always changes when it starts to personally affect you. Then all of a sudden, that data comes in. That data hits a little bit different. I mean, who cares about who wears a mask? It's such a non-issue. If people... First of all, I live in a part of Queens where people have been wearing masks for decades. In Queens, it's a normal sight here. Have a large Chinese and Korean community where I live. And a lot of them have been wearing masks for years and years and years and years. It's not that crazy. Mask wearing in some countries, in some cultures, has become just as normal as wearing a fucking beanie. Year round. Or when it's not cold. Or when you're indoors. I mean, it's simple shit. It's just people wearing an article of clothing. If you don't want to wear it and you're vaxxed, then according to all the medical professionals out there, you don't have to. Well, not all the medical professionals. Some of them think this is too soon, and I sort of agree in terms of the number. I think the percentage who should be vaccinated should be higher. But the CDC at least is saying, that's fine, you don't have to wear one. So don't wear one then. And if you don't want to wear a mask and you're not vaccinated, then get fucking vaccinated.